Welcome to the System Simplified podcast, where we feature top leaders who share stories on how to successfully systemize a business. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello, Klevit here, the host of the System Simplified podcast, where I feature top founders, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders about systematizing a business. And today's episode is being brought to you by Business Success Consulting Group, where we create, document, optimize, and implement processes and procedures so businesses can grow and thrive. And today's guest is Karla Faundez. Hi, Karla.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, getting ready for the holidays.
Absolutely. So I'm going to start by introducing you, and then we're going to have a great conversation about HR, systems, and all of those good things that we talk about. So, Karla, you are the president and founder of Northgate HR Partners, and you're a result-driven entrepreneur that with a passion for helping business solve real problem challenges through practical HR solutions.
Yes.
With over 20 years of experience across industries, including education, banking, shipping, and consulting, you bring a common sense approach and the integrity needed to navigate even the most sensitive people matters.
Yes, absolutely. We're a company that wants to help small to mid-sized businesses and ensuring that yes, they're in compliance, but are their people aligned with their business goals and objectives, which is very important.
Absolutely. So, we first of all need to give a big shout out to Cesar Quintero and Gerardo Escalona and the whole Profit Recipe team. That's how we met. We were strategic partners for them, and we
Yes.
service their clients. And I do processes, you do HR, and that's how we met and we connected. So thank you very much to both of them and to the entire Profit Recipe team.
Yes, we are. We support them, as you said, with their clients as both both of us, you from the process side and us from the HR side, as two things that are essential and crucial to businesses. Sometimes they don't know it, but they need it.
Absolutely. So, Carla, how did you get started with your business?
So this is my second startup. I had an HR consulting firm before, started in 2007. And again, I had been in HR for many years prior to that, like I said, or as you mentioned, in different industries, and I just saw the need for the small to mid-sized business to have the same type of resources, guidance, support that the big companies have. As companies grow and scale, they create their different departments, and HR is usually one, should be one of them. But the small business, really just struggles with getting started and growing and bringing in people and doing what they do best, but sometimes get into trouble along the way. So one of the things that really interested me about not only the HR, but what I love to do with businesses is really learn what they do, how they do it, and then how can we best apply the HR portion of it into their business. It can be, we ensure that things are done simple, practical. We don't create, things that are unclear or just cumbersome, complicated. The simpler, the better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, what are some of the principles that you apply when you work with small businesses, small to medium-sized businesses in terms of HR?
So we first learn about, what are their current functions in place, and most of the time they're usually spread out into different places, different people. You do a little bit of this, you do a little bit of that, and they get by. They get by. So we first come in, and what we start off with is what we call our HR gap analysis. And it really is just that, is determining the gaps that they have, mainly from the compliance perspective, because what we want is to ensure that their business is protected. That's number one. It is making sure that they are meeting all of the requirements that they need to, based on their business, based on their size, um, and their industry. Are they doing things correctly, so we can tell the owner, okay, you can sleep at night because all of these things are crossed off. So we come in and determine those types of things, and then also look at, okay, how aligned are they with, on what is the business? Where do they want to be? How are they going to get there? And are the HR functions tied to that? Most of the time, they're not, because there is just that, sometimes a lot of that not understanding, how HR can really help and support them in their growth plans, having the
Let's
right
talk about
people.
that. How
Yeah.
can HR support a business in their growth plans?
Well, let's start off with, one of the big things from EOS is, having the right people in the right seat. We hear that often enough. I'm sure you do as well. Where do they really have the right people doing what they need? Have they sat down and determined, okay, I need this function, I need this process to exist for the company to grow. And a lot of times that doesn't happen. So it's understandable. It is what it is. So we determine that, we help them along that process. Um, and then once that's determined, it's really, like I said, working towards, do they have the right people? And if they don't, are there others within the organization that can fill those seats? Or do we need to look outside? But
Yeah,
that's really crucial. That's really where it all starts, is that hiring process, or just shuffling, to make sure that people are in the places that they need to be.
for sure. So, we're all about processes, and you mentioned the word process. So let's talk about what is your recommended hiring process?
So again, starting from, what do I need? What position do I need? What is that person going to be doing? And what are the goals and objectives, that will benefit the company? So, we ensure that that's where we start, and that there is a very simple, practical process in place as to, okay, we've determined that. We're now, hopefully they've got their core values, mission, and they have identified their culture. Sometimes that doesn't happen as well, but that's really, really important, because what you want to do is you want to attract people that are aligned with your core values, and culture.
Hmm.
Step number one. Um, and we help them uh, communicate, uh, what that culture and those core values are, right from the very beginning, with how they, post that job opening, out wherever they're posting it, so that you're
So give me an
starting from
example
there.
of how you align um, a job posting with core values. Give me an example of that.
So once we have those core values, um, whatever they may be, teamwork, integrity, initiative, those are some of the common ones that we see. It's coming up with explanations or questions, or at least communicating, like I said, we are a company that believes in, working together as a team, so that all of that is embedded within the job posting. And
Hmm.
then, so you're screening them right from the very beginning. So somebody who's looking for that is going to be like, okay, these are saying some of these key words that I look for, and that's attractive to me, so I'm going to apply. from there we go into the step of, okay, now I've been selected, or that person's been selected, and we're going to ask specific questions using those core values
That's a
to.
good one. So, like, let's say you're interviewing somebody. What are some good questions that you have when you interview somebody?
Oh boy. So a lot of the behavioral, questions, that, if what have you done in this type of situation? How do you determine that you've determined what the priority is within an organization, or within the your scope of work, scope of responsibilities. They're very targeted as far as, like I said, based off of core values. What we're really asking for in those questions, and you want to hear examples, and you want to hear them explain, tell their story, and those things should be coming out. If they're not, then you know that that person's not going to be the right fit. So it's really there. That's where it's super important to get that feedback from
It
them.
really is. It
Yes,
really is.
yes,
Absolutely.
yes.
Absolutely. Okay, where else do you see HR aligns with the growth of the company?
So again, also understanding uh, their their policies or procedures, that's tied to culture as well. What kind of company are we? What do we want to promote? What do we want to reward in regards to, types of behaviors, not just in compensation, but in behaviors and initiatives that people uh, demonstrate. So we again incorporate a lot of the not just, let's not just put this on the wall, these are our core values. It's okay, that's great, and we can see it, but how do we as leaders within organizations really live it day in and day out? So that's also a really big piece as to ensuring that the leaders within the organizations are all on board with those core values and the culture that they want, because they need to be speaking it, breathing it, living it day in and day out with their teams.
So
If
it's
they're
really living
not,
it from the top. You have to embrace it from the top down.
absolutely, absolutely, because we can say it all day long, but if, my boss saying that, teamwork is important, but then they're maybe not including me in a specific project, then I'm not seeing it. So there's a disconnect there. And that's where we start heading down the wrong path of, they're saying this, but they're really not demonstrating it themselves. So why should I?
Right. That is a very good point.
Yes.
What are some of the mistakes that you have seen entrepreneurs do in term from the standpoint of HR?
Com One of the words that we use a lot in HR is obviously documentation, documentation, documentation. I know you use it more for on your processes, but the other really big one is communication. And and I would say 99% of the clients that we work with and the businesses that we work with, communication is lacking in some form or way. So because whether it's the top, it's the leader, or again from the managers down, they may not be communicating in the right way to their teams as to, these are our goals, these are our objectives, this is where we want to be, what are our challenges, being transparent, really having those conversations with their employees, to make sure that that's clear, and it's talked about every single day. A lot of the companies now at the end of the year are preparing their plans for 2026. And sometimes it stays in a room and it doesn't go out any further than that. So that's I would say the number one mistake that we see is the communication side, is that they're not communicating in the right way.
I think so too. I agree. It's communication, and that ties into culture, and that ties into the processes, and that ties into like, okay, so how do we communicate? Because sometimes, you want to also have policies and procedures around communication itself.
Yes, yes, and that's important for everyone to understand as well. So, and every company has different ways of different means of how they communicate, whether that's in weekly or monthly meetings where it's, face to face with, depending on size or whatever, that they're doing that, or through different messaging ways where it's constant, hey, let's talk about this, let's get together for this. We're seeing a lot of combination of face to face. Obviously, after COVID, everybody was remote, and there's still some companies that work remotely, and that's fine. But it's even more important to continue to communicate, whether it's virtually or whatever it is, on an ongoing basis, because then you start leaving people on their islands, and and it's hard to bring them back in.
You're absolutely right. So if we have entrepreneurs that are listening to us right now and they want to know, like, is my HR department good? Do I need to do something about it? Like, what are some questions that they should be asking themselves to figure out if they need help in HR?
Well, a lot of times it's, do they feel that their employees are productive? Are they being efficient in the work that they do? Are they constantly following up with their staff because they're either not, they feel they're not doing things the right way? Is there a lot of time lost amongst the team in other things aside from the work? Doesn't mean they can't be talking about their personal stuff, but is so again, productivity is a big one. Um, have they gotten into trouble, as far as with any types of outside employment agencies, or with, different lawsuits? Obviously, those are big, big, big red flags. Um, I talk a lot about, those HR issues can be very silent until one day they just explode. So again, not addressing things, not being sure about, somebody told me this today, and I addressed it, but I kind of kept going, and I'll get back to it later. And those things fester, and if you're not providing answers or guidance in how to resolve them, they become bigger issues, which could have been addressed way before very easily. So just like with anything, if you're an entrepreneur or a business owner and you don't understand marketing, you bring in a marketing person, or you need it, but you may not know how to do the day to day. So it's asking for support and resources and guidance, that is only going to help them understand it better, and being proactive as opposed to reactive.
Right. So it's not ignoring issues, but really making sure, like, you know that you have a problem. You know that there is an employee there that you should be doing something
That you
about
should
it
be
or
doing
not.
something. Yeah, yeah, they all do. They, again, sometimes it's just a matter of, I don't want to necessarily address it, or they're afraid to, because they may not know, they may not say the right thing, and we totally understand that. So, what we do is we can come in and we can have those conversations and talk to them in regards to whether it's, let me help you have that conversation, or do it with them so that they feel comfortable in having those. They can be uncomfortable conversations sometimes. We all shy away from conflict, and fortunately or unfortunately, when you have employees, you need them, because you need them to do the work that you need to grow the business. But every person comes with their experiences and their expertise and knowledge as well, but they come with all of that, which affects the business
Yes,
in definitely day in and day out.
it totally does. Carla, if our listeners would like to get a hold of you, how can they do that?
Well, they can definitely go to our website, which is www.northgatehr.com. They could email me directly as well. Uh, uh, I always want to be that resource, and help business owners with those questions that to them is can be a mountain, but I can tell them, no, it's really easy. Just do these three things. My email address is Karla, Karla, at northgatehr.com. And again, our contact information is also on our website. So anytime, like I said, even if it's just a question, we also set up our HR discovery calls, which is 30 minutes free consultation of, hey, I want to understand this better. I want a little bit more information or whatever it is. Help me with this process or help me solve this issue. And we're happy to do that. So
That's great. That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Karla, for all the knowledge, the advice, and for being a guest on this podcast.
we can also do that as well.
So thank you very much
Oh,
for
so
being a
sorry.
guest on the podcast.
No, thank you so much, Addie. It was great talking to you, and I wish everybody happy holidays.
Thanks for listening to the System Simplified podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.